All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Executive Speaker Series event presented by the Farmer School of Business in partnership with the Miami University Alumni Association. My name is Megan Linghouse, and I will be the moderator for this event tonight. 2 reminders for all of our viewers and our students watching this evening. You have the option to ask a question throughout the presentation by clicking on the Ask a Question button located directly below the video screen. I'll be posing a number of those questions to Brandon and Clint during the live Q&A at the end of the event. Second, if you're a student here watching for either a class assignment or class credit, we'll be gathering student attendance information during the live Q&A portion of the event. You'll be prompted to enter your first and last name, and instead of asking a question, you would submit the class and professor that you're attending for. Pay attention for a banner to flash at the bottom of the screen right before the live Q&A starts as your reminder. I'll now turn the event over to Jenny Derrick, Dean of the Farmer School.
Well, good evening and welcome to the second event in our Executive Speaker Series. I'm delighted that you could join us. As you know, my name is Jenny Derrick and I'm the Dean at the Farmer School of Business. The title of tonight's talk is From Wilson Hall Roommates to Unicorn Status, the evolution of Go Health into a leading health insurance marketplace. And we're featuring 2 of our alum, Brandon Cruz and Clint Jones. You'll hear their story tonight, but just to start with, they started Go Health 20 years ago in 2001. You'll hear more about Go Health, their friendship, their partnership that began here at the Farmer School, and how they grew Go Health into an organization employing 1,500 people and turning over $800 million in revenue. Go Health was considered one of the 8 Miami associated unicorns before it went public in June 2020. So I'm just going to ask Clint to pop the slides up so I can properly introduce Clint and Brandon to you before we turn the floor over to them. Brilliant. So if you can roll to the next slide, thanks, Clint, so I can introduce you. Very good. So here you have some bios. Let me just summarize them for you. Brandon Cruz graduated from Miami in 1999 with a BS in Management Information Systems. He's currently the Chief Strategy Officer and Co-Executive Chairman of Go Health. Brandon's responsible for strategic direction, execution, and advisory to the executive management team and board of directors. He was included in Crane's 40 Under 40 and was named Midwest winner of the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award. And he's an active board member of Chicago chapter of Young Presidents Organization. He's also a board member of several early and late stage companies and charities. And prior to founding Go Health, Brandon was a systems developer at Lante, an internet services company that developed sophisticated technology-based solutions for electronic markets. And to Clint Jones, graduated from Miami in 1999, also with a BS, this time in marketing and information systems, and is currently the CEO and co-executive chairman. Clint's responsible for Go Health's strategic direction and overall growth, as well as the development and operational execution of the company's business strategy. He's the recipient of the Midwest Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award and has also been named to various annual Chicago leadership lists, including Crane's 40 Under 40 and Tech Week 100. As with Brendan, Clint also serves on a number of boards. Prior to founding Go Health, Clint was the Internet Market Manager for Holt Value, a former division of Credit Suisse. So now I'm going to, well, firstly, please join me in welcoming Clint and Brandon, who will start by giving more background on them and their journey, including the formation of Go Health, after which we'll go into dialogue. So thank you and welcome, Clint and Brandon.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Miami. So yeah, do we want to pull the slides back up? There we go. Brandon, you want to start in the evolution here from the meeting at Wilson Hall?
Yeah, we'll kind of flip back and forth between slides here. As Jenny mentioned, we met in a dorm called Wilson Hall that I'm pretty sure doesn't exist anymore on the East Quad, but that's where it all began. We were roommates freshman year, second semester, and we were both entrepreneurial. We started some businesses as we were in college to make some extra money on the side. You know, we both had a website business, a deck washing and staining business. And then collectively, we started a business called cheapshots.com. Not to age ourselves too much, but when digital cameras first came out, Clint and I were running around taking pictures, putting them online and letting people buy them. And then, as Jenny said, we graduated. We went on to our, what we'd call, I guess, real jobs after college, right when we got out. But shortly thereafter, we began Go Health, which I'll let Clint go into a little bit here.
Yeah. So we've been running Go Health about 20 years now. So I'll kind of give you an evolution of how we got started. But first, I'll talk about what it is today. It's an online marketplace that connects consumers that need health insurance with different health insurance plans around the country. So that it's in its simplest form, think about going to an Orbitz or Travelocity or Expedia to search for an airline ticket, right? So you can go on, you can plug in, I want to fly from Chicago to Cincinnati or what have you. Here's the different flights, the times, the airlines. You make a decision based on price or whatever meets your needs. So that's kind of the platform we have today in its simplest form. We'll get into it a little more detail here in a second. But you fast forward to where we are today. We've got about almost 3,000 employees now, and kind of growing year over year. We've got over 300 different health insurance carrier partnerships we've established, and we'll talk about the market we operate in. But it's about a $30 billion market. So kind of how we got started and where we are today. Both Brad and I quit our jobs, started an internet consulting firm back in kind of 2001 timeframe to help small businesses build websites. A few months into that journey, we had lost our health insurance coverage from the jobs we had quit previously. So, we were encouraged to go out and buy health insurance. When we went out to buy individual policies at the time, it was really, really complicated. And we didn't know, how to compare the plan that was being shown to us versus a Blue Cross or United Healthcare or something we had heard of in the past. So we thought, why can't we do something like the airline industries were doing? So that was the original business shift to looking at health insurance and trying to solve a problem there. So that's what we focused on over the next several years. And each year we've kind of scaled up and done a little different thing. We've pivoted the business a few times, but that core kind of what I'll call consumer transparency, leveraging technology, leveraging people still remains today. As you fast forward to where we are now, we're the largest enroller of Medicare plans in the country. We help seniors when they turn 65 fully understand all the different options that are available to them. It's a very complicated product still, so it's something that it's hard to do completely online without talking to somebody. So we've got licensed advisors we employ across the country that you as a senior or a consumer can connect with. We'll leverage technology to make the process very transparent so we can see there may be 20 available options in your zip code. And then based on the drugs you take, the providers you go to, or the doctors that you need to see, we can help you narrow down to the best plan that maximizes your benefits and ultimately saves you cost in the long run as well. So that same concept we came up with 20 years ago still holds true today.
Yeah, I'd say there have been a lot of opportunities and challenges along the way as a result of being in a regulated industry and just kind of change with the internet and everything else. And we've changed the business, pivoted the business multiple times, probably 5 or 6 core times, where we utilized our existing technology and people and processes and relationships, but we altered what we're selling and how we're selling it. That ultimately got us to where we are today.
Yeah, and this is kind of
understanding on that. If you look at where we are today, we're essentially a giant funnel. On the left, we do marketing. We go out, we reach people on TV, the internet, direct mail, whatever it may be. And then we put them through our process where they'll use our technology. They'll connect to experts that can help them. The technology is helping the experts be more efficient and effective and helpful and in the whole 9 yards. Data kind of underlies everything that we do. So constantly in real time, there's decisions being made by the software that's being fed back to the agents or the consumer to help them make a better decision. And then at the end of the day, once we bring them on board, not only do we get them a health plan, we do something after that to ensure that they maintain their health kind of throughout the remainder of their life. We connect them with the right pharmacies, prescriptions, doctors, telemedicine, health risk assessments, and everything else to make sure they have a great experience with their healthcare.
Yeah, and I think that's the average person has 48 different plan options available in their market. So you can just think the complexity there. And people turning 65, the average person has been on an employer-sponsored health plan for the past 15, 20 years. Once a year they choose, hey, do I want the PPO option or the HMO option? And that's really it, right? So when you turn 65 and you retire and there's so many options available to you, picking the right plan is a key decision in your life, from a health standpoint. So we kind of pride ourselves on, matching consumers with the absolute perfect plan where they can maximize their benefits and save money along the way. So we really have 2 sets of clients. We have a carrier. It's kind of the inventory that manufactures the plan on our platform. So you think about the United Healthcares, the Blue Cross Blue Shields, the Humanas, the Aetnas, Cignas, what have you. So we have all that. That's the kind of the inventory on the platform. And then the value to the carriers is, high volume of distribution, very targeted insights, deep data integrations, really understanding and helping educate consumers on their plans. And then the other part of our chain is the actual consumer. So you think about the choice, the transparency, the ease of enrollment, especially this past year with COVID and kind of a work from home and a purchasing out of your home for seniors who are ultimately more susceptible to the pandemic. This is a perfect fit, right? They can do it out of the comfort of their home. We saw a huge uptick in digital traffic where more and more seniors leveraging a tablet or a smartphone technology to make their enrollment and their buying decisions. So we think there's a huge shift in how people will enroll in these plans over time. So we're investing a lot behind the technology to make sure the experience is very, very efficient and the information is right at their fingertips.
Yeah, this just like the travel industry that Clint mentioned is one where people used to sit across the kitchen table or go into an office and sign stacks of paper to get this done. And it's been moved entirely online. The industry is still transitioning like the airline industry, but because of regulation, this one took longer. And kind of the point of this slide here is that the bigger we get, the better we get. The more people we have, the more the carriers want to work with us. The more the carriers want to work with us, put plans and options on the platform, the more value we provide to the consumers. So we're in a really nice position now where it's hard to catch up. We're like a snowball rolling downhill and getting bigger and bigger and bigger as we go.
So the next evolution Brandon mentions, we call our Encompass platform. And think about, kind of concierge type services for members once they join a plan, right? Really, most people don't understand all the benefits they have access to, how to use those benefits, how to save money. You think about basic things around prescription drugs, and maybe there's a generic drug available where you could actually save a lot of money out of pocket. We're focused on understanding consumers' health so we can help them maybe get in a preventative care model sooner, which ultimately reduces the amount of visits to the emergency room. So, a lot of things beyond the enrollment we're focusing with to help consumers out and leverage their plan. We schedule transportation rides for folks that may not have a car to get to a provider. We will schedule a healthy meal delivery for folks that may live in a food desert or an area that doesn't have a lot of access to good grocery stores. So a lot of activity like that we're doing for the member beyond just purely enrollment.
If you look at the size of our market, as Clint mentioned kind of in the beginning, we're in a massive market. The market for just Medicare eligible seniors is about $30 billion and growing every year. When you talk about the Encompass services that we provide, whether that's connecting with their doctors, the meal deliveries, or whatever it might be, the market is infinitely larger. And if you think about where the world is going, especially because of COVID, nobody likes the process today of having to figure out what doctor's in your network and schedule the appointment and drive down there. And, it's 2 weeks from now. People want things at your fingertips. And so the market is it's enormous and getting bigger for us.
Yeah, I think the key thing here is that, there's 11,000 people turning 65 every single day. So that trend continues throughout till 2028. So you can think about just the shift in the size of this market growing. And then, some of the other, kind of macro, elements are around, a lot of people turning 65 today are very, very comfortable buying online, researching online, and leveraging this sort of a channel. So, a lot of elements kind of in our favor as we think about, kind of scaling the model we've built. From a location standpoint, we were traditionally in 3 areas, Chicago, Charlotte, and Linden in our sales centers. We've expanded virtually in the markets below, and we'll continue that expansion nationally. So, you think about where we sit today, we're 100% work from home, pure virtual. We'll probably get into a discussion on where we think that will be, 6 months or a year from now. But I think there's still going to be a virtual hybrid model, work from home that plays into our game plan long term. So, there's a lot of talent across the country, and there's in a time where there's been a lot of layoffs and folks, kind of losing their job with COVID. We've been in a pretty aggressive hiring, mode, and we've found really, really good talent. And, that talent is very capable of working, from home. And I think that's, somewhat of the new norm as we sit here today.
And this last slide is it's our values for our business. A lot of times it seems kind of hokey to put down your mission and your vision and your values, but it really is something that we live by. If you think about kind of everything we do, these values really kind of permeate our culture and are part of who we are, and really define us and guide us. And that's us. That's kind of a quick summary of us as a company. I think, Jenny, we've got some additional Q&A and stuff we're going to go into next, right?
We do indeed. So let me just provide a couple of points, then I'll take you into a deeper dive and explore some of the points you've already raised. What I was really impressed by is how focused on the customer you are, and both the customer and the providers. I thought that was incredible just to listen to you be so customer focused, and boy, oh boy, what a growth path you've been on. And I think, Brandon, you said that this is a snowball in play right now. So I just want to dig into a couple of things you spoke about, and then I'll go back into the Miami history, and then pick up on a bunch of other topics that we'd like to cover tonight. So you did talk about where the idea for Go Health came from, but was it Go Health always called Go Health?
Yeah, so it wasn't.
Yeah,
you want to take that? Go ahead, Brandon.
Go on, Clint.
Yeah, so
the company's original name was Norvax, and it emanated from a project that we were working on in school our senior year. So we just kind of munged a couple words together. I won't say what they are because we sort of copycatted off two different companies and then pushed them together for a school project. And when we started the company, we needed a name. So we had Norvax. And for years and years and years, we were going to change the name, and we didn't get around to it, and everybody got to know us as Norvax. But when we rebranded to be a consumer-focused company, we were able to acquire the domain name Go Health, and we ripped the Band-Aid off, and we've been Go Health since probably 2011-ish. Clint, does that sound right?
Yeah, about there.
I love it. So you talked a lot about growth, and I know you went public last year, and that was part of the strategy to go public. But as you've got bigger and bigger and bigger, what I'm really interested in is some of those inflection points, the pain points, if you will, that went with the growth. And I wonder if you can share some of those stories about the journey. Thank you.
Yeah, I think when you're 50 or so people in an office, it's easy to keep everybody together, everybody marching to the same kind of beat and direction. Once you get multiple locations and you get into, many more people, I think one of the challenges is, from a communication standpoint, make sure that you've got everybody aligned, right? So that there were some learning curves there and some pain points we had as we uncovered the best ways of ensuring that the organization was kind of marching to the same beat. We also have had, along the way, some regulatory, challenges and changes in our business that we had to kind of pivot overnight, if you will. But I think it's also a testament to the team you build, right? And you kind of create people and work with people that are very fluid, and they can tackle challenges along the way. And it feels like at every step of the way, or every major point of growth in the organization, there's been a unique challenge that we've had to solve. And I think it's probably not unique to us. It's probably common to most companies. But I think it's like how you go through that challenge. How do you understand what options are available? That's the key thing, to being successful.
And I want to
I agree. Around 50 people, all of a sudden you got to start replacing systems. You got to put more HR and formal processes in place. A whole bunch of new laws start kicking in as far as how you have to operate the business. So yeah, that's the one that I think we both really remember. Like between 50 and 100 people, kind of everything had to be overhauled.
And just getting better systems in place as you grew, I'm sure of it. So you talked a couple of times about pivoting and changing, and I know part of your story is really interesting in terms of the number of pivots you've made. And I think when I talked to you earlier, Brandon, I think you mentioned you were chasing too many ideas at once. You kept getting reprimanded for having too many ideas on the go. So can you lean into that and share that story for us? Thank you.
Yeah, I probably remember this too. When we were a small company, one thing we always knew, I think one of our advantages was we knew there were people that had been through this and done this, and we hadn't. So we always had a board prior to having the requirement to have a board because of investors. That board would always kind of be like, the thing with you guys, you have so many opportunities, you tend to go after all of them, and it distracts you a little bit. Instead of doing 10 things okay, why don't you do one thing really well? And we tried to take that advice and we tried to focus. But when 2015 came out and the ACA was being implemented and the website wasn't working, there were all these kind of like obstacles on the horizon for us. And so we put a bunch of irons in the fire. So we started a life insurance business. We started a small group insurance business. We started a health engagement business called HealthJoy. And we started Medicare. And our ability and experience to diversify and put all those irons in the fire really helped us win when Medicare became the hot rod for us. And we took that out, and we've been kind of going with.
No, I love that. And I'm sure you talked about some inflection points, even 2015, when you had to make some decisions. But were there any times that you really thought you weren't going to make it? And do you want to share stories around that? Thank you.
Yeah, there's probably a couple times. I remember when we first got started. I mean, this is like early days. I don't know if we were even a year old. Like we started the business with $5,000 each in credit card debt, essentially. And we kind of made it off of that. We had some clients from the past we were generating revenue off of, but we got to kind of a point where we were either going to run out of cash, and we actually met at a pizza place in Chicago and said, if we don't figure out something or get the next deal, we're going to have to make a different decision. And luckily, a deal came in and it worked, and we kept the ball rolling. But I think that there's been always in the back of your mind, I think a successful entrepreneur has a fear of failure. Right. That's a lot of the traits that I've seen people that are successful doing unique things on their own. And I think that fear of failure, somewhat, still exists today. Right. You're always looking at the next thing and how do you get to the next level? And, I think that that's made us, successful in our own right, with all the different challenges or things that, we've gone through. And, I'm sure, all startups are the same way. Right. There's going to be certain times that, they're like, oh, wow, are we going to make it here? Are people going to buy this product? Do we have the capital to continue growing? But I think you just kind of grind through it and, kind of have that grit, if you will, to get to the other side.
So I want to stay with the entrepreneurial mindset theme just for a minute there. Clint, you've talked about tackling challenges. You've talked about the type of people that you employ. You've talked about the fear of failure, having grit and determination. So as you know, Clint and Brandon, at the Farmer School, we believe that virtually all professions today demand creative problem solving and entrepreneurial thinking and skills. What do you look for in your employees, and what sets a high potential employee apart from others?
I'd say one of the key things is the ability to solve a problem. Right. I mean, that's you could think about a finance function, a marketing function, a copyright function, whatever the function is in the organization. And, A, can somebody do the job, but B, can somebody think outside of the box and solve a problem? And I think that that's a key thing that all entrepreneurs, have as a trait. And I see that in every role of the organization we have. And I see the people that are extremely successful, like to tackle problems. They like to, jump into challenges and ultimately, try to help us figure those problems out. And I think that's been a key trait for all of our high up and comer and top performing employees we have. Yeah,
I think I'd add on to that passion and enthusiasm for the job and what they may be doing. A lot of people will come and to use an example to say, I built a car with my team and I did this or I did that, and you ask them specifically, walk me through how you did that. What challenges did you face? How did you overcome them? People that have the passion for doing the job right and like Clint said, kind of a fear of failure, they tend to be the best people, the most effective people, the teammates that everybody wants to work with and teammates that everybody's inspired by. So you really look for specific experience and understanding of how they did something as opposed to just telling you they've done something.
I love it. I want to take you back down memory lane just for a little while. So I want you to go right back and tell me both, why did you choose Miami in the first place? Why Miami?
Yeah, so my dad actually went there. So I remember as a young kid having at the time a Redskin banner in my room at home, and then obviously we in high school we visited quite a few schools, and I went to a football game with my dad early on, and when I was a freshman or whatever, and just loved the campus. Campus was awesome. Campus was beautiful. We walked around. I think you took me to Mac and Joe's for lunch, and how cool and awesome is this, which is still there. Actually, last time we were there, we went to Mac and Joe's and got a sandwich. Still as good as I remember it was. But then everybody we'd met too was just super nice, friendly, accommodating. So when we started narrowing it down and, we looking at my, kind of the options available, that's really what I honed in on. And, my kind of final visit, super excited. Everybody I met, obviously the accolades and, the ratings are a key factor as well. Yeah, you obviously want to go to the, at the time, the Harvard of the Midwest. I think it was one of the nomenclatures that was out there. So yeah, super excited, and I'm 100% confident and proud that I made that decision, and wouldn't be here today without it.
My story is a little different. I had, I was a decent student. I wasn't really into applying to every college and doing the best I could in school. I was more into how can I start something to make some money on my own on the side. So throughout high school, I had, various businesses, like I mentioned, and I was doing okay. And in my little world in high school, I thought that was all I needed. So I applied to a couple colleges. I didn't visit any. And I got a scholarship to Miami. And so I went there, and it completely changed my life. I met people that inspired me to do things different ways. I got the education. I got into computers. Miami should be credited with like dramatically changing the direction of my life, kind of on accident. I thought I would have been fine doing like these little businesses on the side on my own for the rest of my life. So thanks to Miami, here we are.
So what's your favorite memory of being a student here at Miami?
I don't know.
I think it's tough to pick one. There's probably a lot I probably couldn't say. But I would just say probably some of the best people I've met and still are best friends today. Kind of met through Miami, whether it was through a class, fraternity, freshman dorm, still remain in contact with a lot of folks there. I think just the people are what make Miami even better, right? There's just such great people there that I remain close with today.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. There's a lot of really good and funny and emotional memories. I'd say like the thing about Miami though, it's a collection of memories that made me who I am today, like I said. So whether it's times with friends, events that happened, road trips we did together, certain classes that inspired me and changed things. That collection of memories is kind of like part of who I am today. Clint and I are both on a text thread with 20 friends or so that we had from back in Miami, and I go by where there's not at least 50 texts on that thread. So we stay in close contact with everybody.
That's great. So before we get back to Go Health, I have a question, I think, especially for Brandon and probably also Clint. You talked about having had a lot of business hustles on the side, especially as a younger person. And you did share about the photo business, but tell us a few more stories about what else you've tried.
Clint, you want to go first?
So I think in high school, I actually taken a web design class in college. My junior year, and actually it was my senior year. And when I realized that people that were graduating with MIS majors versus marketing majors in 1998, were making like literally twice as much money. I said, how can I add on from my marketing major to MIS, which I did. But it was going to take me a half a semester. So I was going to, wouldn't graduate in May. I'd graduate, the next December. So I went home to convince my dad that he needed to pay for an extra semester. And his first question was like, what are you going to do for a summer job? And at the time, I didn't have a summer job. So I said, I'm going to build websites. So that, I literally knocked on, grew up in a small town, went door to door down Main Street in 1999, summer of 99, knocking on doors, building websites. Turned out actually sold a lot of websites, made a lot of money. That was probably one of the things that opened my eyes to what's possible if you just try and put, kind of try hard and put your effort into it.
Yeah. So for me, I had a few, my big business in high school, I thought was big at the time, is I would go around, make these flyers, and I'd go around and put them in everybody's mailbox to advertise to, clean and then restain somebody's deck. We lived in Cincinnati. It was really hilly. So people had these big decks. And I realized the more I could advertise, the more business I would get. And I would, I'd charge, $2,000, $1,000, depending on the size of the deck. And I'd pay my friends $10 an hour to do it. And so I just started getting these economies of scale. And that's why I was doing great. And then in high school, or then in college, I was big into water sports. And so I would kind of barter for this local place called the Extreme Water Sports Center. It's a big wakeboard place. And I got to ride with the professional wakeboarders and things like that. And that parlayed into later in life. I started a kite surfing business where we taught lessons and sold equipment in the whole 9 yards. And, just all those little side hustles. Even as we were starting to Go Health, we had some side businesses that we would do just to make extra money and make ends meet. So yeah, just whatever we could do, whenever we could do it.
There's some good stories in amongst that. So back to this line of work. So I want to focus on DE&I, and we all know running organisations that hiring and retaining diverse talent is very top of mind. So Clint, can you talk about Go Health and how you approach DE&I?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, from the top down, really, I mean, is a key focus for ours. And I mean, when the top, the board of directors kind of starts there, and then all the way through the management team and down. And you think that the benefits, around just like the overall culture you can create, your brand awareness within the market, find a truly creative environment to pull the best out of people. I mean, that's just been a key focus of ours, and obviously it's becoming more and more in the limelight today. But it's kind of been a key theme for us as we've grown the business. Just hiring really, really diverse, top talented individuals that create, what I'll call this like creative growth sort of environment, right? Where there's no wrong answer or no wrong idea. People can come to the table with just crazy ideas that, may or may not work, but at least let's talk about them. Let's get them on the table. And I think having that kind of inclusive, culture with really diverse people is the way to do that. And that's the tone we've set. And it's been successful for us so far, and it'll continue to be.
Danny, I think you might be on mute.
Sorry, I am. So, yeah, sorry about that. Read my lips. So, when we talked back in May, Brandon, we were talking about the future of work, and you were not sure about the return to work. In fact, you were redesigning some office space to try and reconfigure how that would look. And now we are pretty much 1 year into this crazy new reality, which hopefully will end quite soon. And I know when we talked prepping for this call, you weren't quite sure now what that future of work looked like. So I'd love to hear more of your thoughts about what that crystal ball's telling you.
Oh, I wish that crystal ball was telling me something. I think that we are going to be back in the office significantly in some way. It might be as far out as 2022. I think that to develop culture and attract new talent, it's hard to do it completely virtually. It's hard to create a relationship over Zoom. You can have conversations over Zoom, but a lot of that culture development happens in the office. So although we will always have some hybrid model, people will be able to work from home. They might not be in the office 5 days a week. Some people might never be in the office for all we know, depending on where we hire our talent from. We tend to have kind of a core nucleus that will always have an office to go to, even if as we grow, that's multiple offices all around the country. But as far as exactly how it's going to work, there's going to be more collaborative space. We're going to have better technology for integrating people in various offices. There's some people at home, some people in the office. I think Zoom's great when everybody's at home, but it's more difficult when 3 people are in the office and 3 people aren't. So we're kind of working through all that as we speak. And I think it may be another year before we figure out exactly what that's going to look like.
Yeah, but I think that the work from home environment has proven itself to be real, right? There's technologies out there that make it much more efficient. I tend to believe there's going to be a hybrid approach that'll be, some people might be all 5 days in the office, but I think that flexibility is going to be critical, right? There's some roles that I think are better suited for pure work from home as well. Some roles around, executive leadership or collaboration or just, the innovation and strategy, it's tougher to replicate online or over Zoom. So like having that, those sessions internally, I could see a plan where, teams have meetings certain days of the week, but they work from home other times. So I think it's, our goal is to be, flexible and, figure out what's going to be right. But I think having this like hybrid approach is, where things at least will start off until, kind of the new norm shakes out.
Yeah, I think it's clear even pre-pandemic, people really appreciated the ability to have some flexibility to work from home. I think the pandemic proved that it's definitely possible, like Clint said. So, yeah, still defining exactly what it's going to look like, but the flexibility will certainly be there for our business.
And I think many of us have found that productivity has gone up, but the personal relationships have the quality of them's diminished. So it's staying with the same topic. I know we've got many students listening, and I was speaking to some of our student leaders a week or two ago, and some of them are doing virtual internships over summer, and some are actually starting their first post-college job virtually. So what advice would you give to our fresh out of college students entering into this virtual world of work?
Yeah, and it's a good question, because you think about I'm sure a lot of people, and the same goes for us, and how we've had to hire over the last year, right? There's probably 95+% of the folks we've hired, let's say 400 or 500 people in the last year, we've never met, or they've actually never met anybody. So, you're going through a recruiting process virtually, you're doing interviews virtually, and then ultimately you're starting day one virtually without actually, forming relationships and building that stuff and key relationships, even not only in work, but outside of work, right? Going to grab lunch or going to grab a drink after work or what have you. You can't do that now. But I think that, find ways to, help build your own brand is what I'll say it, right? Find ways to kind of think outside of the box to become more well-known in the organization or with your manager. Show the things you're doing that, where you're going above and beyond the call of duty, if you will, to do that. So I think that all of a sudden you get, that personal brand, like, oh, wow, we've got, really a rock star coming up here. Are there other things we can have that person do? Or how do we support this person better? And don't get lost in what I'll call the daily shuffle, right? So.
Yeah, I would say people are more connected, but also more on their own than they've ever been. And so things you can do to set yourself apart. Don't always just join the Zoom call when you need to get a hold of a manager or something. Just call them and have kind of a more informal, like person-to-person conversation, and do whatever you can to stand out, because everybody's just on a computer screen right now, and it's really tough to differentiate yourself. So try to do some things that might be different than the rest of the crowd and separate yourself.
I think it's really good advice. And when you were introducing the company, you talked about, if I'm not mistaken, about 48 data points that you're collecting on people. I was really blown away by what you're doing to try and offer the best solutions for your customers. So my question is around data mining and database decision making. So many of our corporate partners are stressing the need for our students to have a strong analytical skill set. Can you talk more about how you're using analytics? I mean, clearly you've got some very sophisticated use of data driving the business and supporting value to customers, but I'd love to hear more about that, please.
Yeah. So I would say everything we do evolves around data, right? So from the customer acquisition on the data points of who this person is, you think about, gender, age, health history, income status, geography, all those elements at the high level go into the algorithms on how we help them sort and match plans. Everything from the marketing, what click, what channel they came from, all those data elements factor in to everything we do. And then on the flip side is we capture that information on the customer. We have data models built around our sales agents as well, as one example. We know what sales agents are best with which type of customer. So you can think of that data matching and data mining there to ensure that if we know, one of our sales agents does really, really well with people that come off of Facebook in these 3 states, with this age group, there's all this different data elements. So I think you're absolutely right. And, anything you can do to, get into, involved in data mining or analysis is huge, because that's what companies are looking for. But I think on top of that, it's also how to use that data to help make better business decisions. That's a key element too.
Yeah. In our company, our core, data science team is now, I think it's 50 people, something in that range. That's the hardcore, managing the data. But everybody in our company, no matter what department they're in or what they're doing, is interacting with the data team and the data technology that we're using. And we've got a system called Creed that is basically kind of the source of information for everybody. And every single part of our business is interacting with that on an everyday basis.
That's really interesting. So during this interview, we've used words like grit, determination, creative thinking, entrepreneurial mindset, standing out. And so again, for the students who are listening, talk to us about how you blend this entrepreneurial mindset with technical skills. So you're clearly recruiting for both. And related to that, what advice would you give our students who are navigating their 4 years at college?
Yeah, so I think that there's a combination of technical skills and what I'll say business know-how, and that's no matter what field you're in, right? And that could be any sort of field, any sort of area within the organization. The ability to use data, analyze data, leverage, even if it's like the basic Excel sheet, right? Understanding data. But then on top of that, how do you help your team, your manager, yourself, your company make good, sound decisions off of that data, right? I think that's the key element, because anybody can, I think, crunch numbers and, build pivot tables or spreadsheets, but how can you take that data and actually make meaningful decisions and help the business move forward?
Well, I like it. And I think one of the areas that I think is really important, and I'm just leaning into this for the students, is that here at the Farmer School, we encourage students, and we have a lot of great programming around the entrepreneurial mindset and creative thinking, and yet they end up working for a large company such as Go Health, where you're probably not wanting them to set up their own business with inside your business. But speak to me about that tension, trying to recruit that skill set, but still working within a very established and successful organization.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is as you grow and you get bigger, there's more processes, more procedures, more protocols, and our goal has been to kind of remain nimble, right? Remain the same like culture and kind of creative drive that we were when we were 20 or 50 people. And obviously it's more challenging to navigate as we sit here today. But I think everybody that comes in, all the employees, is like, whatever we're doing today and whatever process you're involved in or function you're involved in, there's probably a better way of doing it, right? We may think it's perfect and we may have got the great results from that, but I guarantee there's a better way of doing it as well. So just having that kind of always questioning the process, the platform, the procedure, always questioning that to see if you can improve it and bring light to that.
So before I move on to my last question for you, I've got two more. So what other career advice could you give our students listening?
Brandon, you want to start? You want me to?
Yeah. So career advice. What career advice would I give? Number one, gain technical skill, because everything in the world is revolving around data and technology and analytics now. Whether it's engineering technology, software technology. I would acquire some of that skill, and even if you've already graduated and haven't gone down that track in college, acquire it, post graduation. Number two, in the beginning, we talked about the words grit, determination, passion. You've got to do things kind of out of the gates to stand out. Approach your first job with humility and go in there and looking to prove something and stand out from the crowd, and that'll really affect the course of your career trajectory.
Yeah, I would say there's probably a lot of people that are either juniors, seniors, or somewhere in the school that just probably don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I remember I was in the same shoes, right? I had no idea what I was going to do, didn't know what I wanted to be. So I think that's okay graduating, right? Get your first job, cut your teeth, but I would say over time, figure out what your passion is, right? And once you find that passion, go with it and go hard. We've got a program we established, called our executive strategy program that, people come in and, they're put on different teams within the organization, from HR to technology to marketing. And over the first 6 months to a year, the goal of that program is to, help those individuals figure out what they're really passionate about and where they think they can help the business the most. So I think it's a great type of program. If you can get involved in something like that, that's key, because you get exposed to different things and you may determine I never thought I'd like finance, but I love finance. Or, I didn't think I was a marketing, creative person, but now that I've been exposed to this, and I think I could do really well here, and this is really cool stuff.
So my last question before we open up for questions from the audience is about work-life balance. So my question really is, what does work-life balance mean to you, and how do you manage it?
In the work from home, work-life balance is sort of a blend together, unfortunately. So, I'm sure everybody has that same feeling that it's, you kind of get up and your computer's right there, and all of a sudden you dive into it and you have Zoom call after Zoom call after Zoom call scheduled. So I think you need to, take a step back and ensure that you do have good work-life balance, and you're spending time with your friends or family or whoever you can during this time is critical. But it's a way to kind of decompress, right? It's a way to step back and do something. So when you're able to come back into the work setting, you're fully charged and you're ready to go.
Yeah, I think what's important with that, I've been fortunate both at Lante before we started Go Health and then at Go Health. when I go to work, it feels I'm sitting with my best friends, solving a problem that we all want to solve together, and challenging the competition, and it's fun. Being at work is enjoyable, and I think it's really important to be at a place where you like the coworkers that you're with, you respect them, and you enjoy being there, because you do spend the majority of your day, of your time, awake at work, historically. So I think it's important that you enjoy the work that you do. Like Clint said, you got to have passion for what you're doing, or work-life balance is always going to feel out of whack.
I love it. So now we're going to turn to the final part of the evening, where we turn the floor to questions from the audience. So Megan's going to take over and take us through some of those questions.
Okay. My first question is, you talked about how your board recommended narrowing in on one area and excelling at it. How do you balance that with simultaneously wanting to grow the company and the services you offer?
Yeah, it's a good question. There is a fine balance there, because you do, especially as a younger startup business that really is not fully established, you have a little bit of success in one area, and I think you have the confidence you can do it across many different areas, right? So I think balancing that with, the growth, the innovation, with, picking a strategy and being really, really good at that one strategy before you actually take on, additional things.
Brandon, do you want to add anything?
No, that's right.
Okay. You said if you need a fear of failure to be successful. If you need a fear of failure to be successful, how do you balance that with the need to take risk?
I think one of our values is innovate by taking intelligent risk. All right. So if you're going to jump off a bridge that's 40 feet tall and you're going to dive into the water, make sure you know how deep it is before you take that plunge, right? And so I think you just got to balance it. We always tell people it's completely fine to screw up, but if you screwed up because you were lazy or didn't do your research or your homework first, that's not acceptable. So I think that's kind of the value that we live by.
Yeah, and I think if you think about fear of failure, once you've started something, it's like, I think a lot of people that start businesses might quit too early. Right. And if they would have grinded it out for another month or another 6 months or whatever, or, maybe innovated their product a little bit or tried a different market, they could have been successful. And the folks that I think, we've seen, that are entrepreneurs that have built big businesses and have been successful have all kind of, figured that out and got through that challenging time. And they all had the same thing. Like, I didn't want to fail. And, we tried everything we possibly could. And, if this market didn't work, we went over here. And I think you have to take the risk to jump in to do something, but you also have to be prepared. Like, if that might not work right away, and there's this failure concept in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm not going to fail, so I'm going to go ahead and pivot and try this.
Yeah, a huge number of the successful businesses that you see aren't what they thought they were going to be when they started, right? Go Health included. So I think the determined entrepreneurs keep making adjustments until they find that product market fit and can scale.
Okay, thank you. What's your strategy for long-term growth if we move to universal single source healthcare insurance?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, there's a lot of products wrapped around, that kind of concept, right? So if you have, if you look at let's say the Canadian, health insurance industry, right? Kind of a, one plan, but there's a lot of plan options you can buy and purchase, better access, maybe go to different doctors or what have you. So we would call it ancillary products essentially, right? Which we would, have the ability to do with our technology in our marketplace. There's other verticals we could look at within the, you think about it in its simplest form, we're matching consumers with a product. We have all the technology underlines to do that. We have the people and processes to do it. So that would be, a clear focus.
Okay. Let's see. If you were starting the business again, what is the one thing among others that you would do differently?
That's a good question.
Yeah, there's probably, you look back and there's probably thousands of things you do differently, right? But the reality is we got to where we are today by making those mistakes and learning from those mistakes. And I just don't think, I can't really point to like one thing that, I wish I would have done that differently, because, we've enjoyed the journey. Have there been, some really, really challenging times and times where you think, wow, what's tomorrow going to bring? Sure. But I think that, we've learned along the way, and it's created us, it's made us a better business, right? It's made us better managers. How we think about, the industry and, where we're going to, kind of go next. And I think those key learnings along the way really prove that.
Okay. Just a reminder.
There's a lot of things like coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? When we started, there was no way to raise money or anything. Like today, there's a pretty robust, seed investor network, in most cities. And you say, oh, if we raise money, maybe this all would have happened faster. We've been 20 years, but I don't know if we would have ended up in the same place. Probably not. We probably would have been more cavalier and not had that kind of like grit we're talking about to pivot the business and end up where we need to be. So, like Clint said, I don't think there's any one thing. We could have done probably 150 different things differently, and may or may not have ended up with the same result. But we feel fortunate to have kind of followed the track and made the decisions that we have.
Just a reminder to our students, if you're here for a class, you can go ahead and submit that class information via the Ask a Question button below the video screen. Next up, what was the feeling on the day of the IPO?
It's a little surreal, right? Because I'm doing it again, work from home. Like we did the entire roadshow IPO process totally virtual, which if you ever envision kind of ring the bell on Wall Street, totally different feel. So it was kind of surreal because it really didn't feel different than a normal day because you're still on Zoom meetings, you're still talking, you're just something just changing. That's probably one thing I wish that during the time we could have actually gone to Wall Street and, kind of rung the bell and with the team and celebrated. But, in July, everybody's hunkered down and, it was even tough to just like celebrate, right. With a big, all the employees and everybody that helped us get to where we are. So kind of a little bit of, surreal, if you will.
Yeah, it was very interesting how virtual it all was. Like we made virtual videos for our employees and for the NASDAQ and for everything else. But we sold a piece of the business to a private equity company in late 2019. And then we IPO'd in July of 2020. It was like just almost 2 years of nonstop putting a deal together. So getting that across the goal line was a really, really good feeling. And then you watch your stock every second of every day, and that's not as fun.
How do you build community and retain an environment that feels like a smaller business or startup with a company of your size?
It's a real challenge, right? And it's something we're always, trying to improve on and do. But you think about, town halls, virtual settings, especially, I think that the question you just asked is even more challenging virtual, right? I think when you get large, Brandon and I and the executive team, we were flying around quarterly to all our different locations, holding town halls, talking with employees, running around high-fiving people and just like kind of building that up. And, all of a sudden you have to do that now virtually. And, we've talked about the number of people we've hired, that we have not met and actually haven't met anybody in our whole organization. So I think the culture piece is going to be continue to be a challenge in kind of the work from home model, right? Especially with new employees that aren't fully like integrated. You can't, your manager can't take you out to lunch, or you can't go out with your team to a happy hour on Thursday. So those are like challenging things. So, we try to, do as much as we can, virtually, but it's not the same.
Can you explain some of the controls you have in place for the governance of the patient information in your databases?
I'll let Brandon handle that one.
Yeah, there's certain security protocols and requirements you have to follow, and we have something which is called a high trust certification, which is the health insurance industry's kind of highest level of ensuring that we encrypt and store the data the proper ways and transmit it the proper ways and follow the HIPAA requirements and everything in between. It's something that just got a little stamp of approval, but it means you've done a lot of work to make sure that you're compliant on the back end.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. How do you keep motivated even after you've managed to grow your company to such a successful level?
I'm still afraid to fail. Honestly, that's one of the reasons. Like you're constantly, what's the next evolution? And being public's a whole different ballgame, right? So there's like that kind of like, this is a new thing to be involved in, and But I think in reality, it's like the next, we see how big the opportunity is, and I'm still extremely passionate about what I do. I love the people that we work with. We have a lot of fun, even virtually. We still have fun, and I can't really think of anything else I'd like to be doing.
Yeah, I think there's a few things. So over the years, we started off, we had some friends and family, say like, when can we get involved in your business? They put in some money, and then, we had a couple private equity investors, and now we've got public investors. I think the biggest motivator for me is to make sure that they're really happy they got involved with Go Health, right? And so that's what does it, right? When you meet somebody, you talk about your business, you want them to be really happy instead of really upset that they didn't make money. So that's the motivating factor, I think.
Okay. And last question for both of you. What do you wish someone told you when you were a student at Miami? And that's kind of open-ended.
That's a really good question. I think I would. So I kind of saw this a little bit. So I think it was my junior or senior year, the founders of WebMD, one of the founders actually did a presentation in one of my business classes. And it was just at that point in time that, he basically said he wasn't a great student, didn't get good, the best, didn't get A's, what have you. But you look how successful that WebMD had been in like the whole 9 yards. I think that was the one time I'm like, wow, anything's possible. Right. And I wish that, the ability for somebody to say, you can do anything, because you honestly can, right? The opportunities are out there. It's like somebody taking just the step to do it. And I'm glad I actually took that step and did it. But that's probably one of the things that, earlier on, it's like, hey, just do it. If you have an idea, go run with it.
Yeah, for me, I don't know if this is still the same. When I started, I was advised, hey, just take a bunch of classes and see what you like. And I get the logic in that, but I ended up, with classes like at night, and I just didn't really know how to go through college with my course selection and time management, all that my freshman year. And, so I found out I was really interested in the business and computer side of things by sophomore year, and college became so much easier and more interesting to me once I focused on what I really had passion for, as opposed to just kind of dipping my toes in the water everywhere. It showed in my grades, but I don't know that it was necessarily bad that I went through that process. But I think it's important to kind of know what you want to do and then follow like a direct path to get to graduation.
All right. Thank you both. Jenny, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, what a great interview this has been. I've really enjoyed this executive speaker series. So thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Clint. I really appreciate the privilege of your time for sharing the story of Go Health and more about yourself. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.